Right now, the other day I did some filming out here on the job, and that's the thing. So don't mind me when I'm looking around, because I'm actually at work at the moment. Shouldn't be doing this, but anyway, I did some filming about magic, and we're making some things to work with just off the fly. I lost all of the audio on it. I'll take that as a bit of a thing to say that it shouldn't have gone out on that day. But as I'm also a dullard and a bit thick, and I tend to ignore signs, here we are again. So let's give it a go today and see if we can't make it work. We'll get back to it. It actually turns out it means that I can address another thing as well that I don't see anyone talking about these days. So that's good. Let's give it a go. Now, to begin with, the first thing that I was doing the other day was I made a poppet out of just stuff that came to hand, because I've been out here and I've been clearing the garden. I've been pulling all the weeds out, and it's an ongoing thing, as you can tell. All the weeds, and there was this vine which is very useful, and I basically just whipped one up on the fly, and we went with that. Now, the first thing is that I then put that down. Now, I'm not entirely certain where around here it was, but here's the thing that I don't see anyone talking about these days when they talk about things that they've lost. Now, it's under here somewhere, under there somewhere. Now, I made this thing, so I should be able to pick up some idea of where it was. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking he just went and checked this out earlier. No, the problem with that is obviously I'm at work, so I do this rather quickly. And besides of which, you're underestimating exactly how bad my memory is. Along here somewhere. Tinkle, tinkle. Ah! There we go. I was close. That's not bad, considering I'm a little preoccupied checking around. Look, trust me, my Catholic paymasters wouldn't be thrilled to know that I'm doing sermons on magic in their garden. Let's try all this again. Let's have a look. There he is. Now, anyway, the idea was we were making a poppet, and as I said at the time, there's lots goes on about, you cannot be doing this squire unless it's under full moon, whether or not the dog is crowed 3 times before the cock, and all that sort of nonsense, which is bollocks. Right, this ought to do it. We'll start with this. Okay. Now, originally, last time around, I did this out there, and I spent most of the time looking over my shoulder and going whoop, 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 whoop as people walking past. This time around, we're not going to do that, because there's people out there very much doing things, so it wouldn't be a good look. You'll find that the Catholics are not too happy when you do magic on their patch. Anyhow, here's the deal. It's kind of good though, because it highlights another thing about witchcraft. Everyone always looks for sacred groves and all that sort of stuff, and I guess that's marvellous if that's what you got. But let's be honest, a large number of witches these days are an entirely urban thing, very middle class. So what you wind up with is places that aren't too handshaking with the idea of sacred groves. So you look for liminal places. This here is an old toilet block which has been forgotten. It was at the end of the building, and they took the toilet out, they stopped using it, and so now it's just kind of like this forgotten storeroom that no one but me uses. That works nicely, doesn't it? Anyway, this is, again, as I was saying before, a bit of magic my mom taught me. Nice and simple stuff, and quite often that's the best way to do it. Oh, that's a bit tough. Give me a seat. Right, that was good. Now, so we've got our bit of vine there. A little bit left over. Let's wrap him around and tuck it through. Now, you don't particularly want knots, okay? you want loops. You want loops that go on themselves. Knots hold things in, and we don't want that for this. So I've got our little thing here. Oh. It's the only trouble with using natural elements. They have a will of their own, which of course we're subverting. That's what witchcraft is all about after all. Bending what's there. Now, I'm now going to separate that end bit. So I've got a little bit of a Y. Where's that? Another bit. This looks good. This looks good. Another bit of thin stuff. Now, the joys of live feed, huh? None of you pretending it all goes to plan around here. Oh no, we're not that good. Let's twist it around a couple of times down this way. And then back. And then down the other side. Then back. Now, I'm going to go up the side here, and then I'm going to force a little loop up the top just by squeezing it in. Maybe a bit more than that. That's it. Right. And I'll just keep that there. Nice big long bit extra. We'll use that in a minute. Get another bit. Not quite as thick as what we made that other piece out of, but same deal. Round a couple of times. I'm going to twist it around there just to keep it in place. Because although I quite like rustic looking tools, there does come a point at which you start looking at things and saying, I don't even know what the hell that's supposed to be. Right. So we go, got it in a loop. Squash it together, give it a bit of a twist, it always helps. Now where's our other? Now, I'm going to separate this middle part out. By now I'm sure you see where this is going. Separate that out and push these through the middle. Alright. Now, this is where that other lovely big long extra piece comes from. We're going to use it to go around and round, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it looks like we're just going to get enough to feed it back through so that it sits nicely. More luck than design, I can assure you. So, feed that through. There you go. And there is our little friend. Just made out of a crappy piece of iron. Now, getting back to where we were. Now that you've made this thing, this is yours. Now, if you look at some of these things, they've got really long and lengthy procedures that they've come up with, generally to make themselves feel like they're really doing something. You've really done something. If you're making a puppet, it's for a reason. You already had it up here while you were doing it. It's already happening. It's in there. However, you've made it real, but it's still here. Quite inert. So what you need to do is understand that this is the thing that you've made. It's for you to use as you see fit. Don't be anyone telling you what you can and can't use it for, because that's ridiculous. If you want this to use as curse, you want to curse someone with it, because that's what we usually hear about puppets, don't we? Although these days they say, I'm going to stick needles in you to heal you. If you're not acupressure, I don't know how that works. Anyway, but you can use this for any reason at all. Think of it like a little servant that you've created, but now you've got to give it some life. Give it some life, give it some breath. Bring it to life. That's what you've got to do. Now, some people, again, have all sorts of other things to do to consecrate these things. Now, you can go the whole bibbity bobbity babbity bee, mystic powers come to me as I will, so mote it be, if you like. Or if you're, more into grimaces type, show me whatever. The whole point is you do what you know. You do what's in accordance with you and what you want this thing to do. That means that you're giving it all the proper programming and loading that you need, and more importantly, that it needs. Okay, last things last. For most people, they then say, so now what do I do with it? Well, there's two main ways that you can use something like this. One, you can keep it as a bit of a touchstone. I used to make them out of material, tie a bit of string around it, tie it to my belt, and a good length of string, so when you walk past things, you could whack its head against things. Obviously, I was doing that with people I didn't like. But then we come on to the other thing you do, which is perhaps an older way of doing things. So once you've done this sort of thing, you might do a little bit of a ritual with this guy if you're that way inclined. You could send him out to look after your garden. You could send him out to look after someone. You could send him out to curse someone, as I've said earlier. But the older thing to do is you get this little fella now and you find a place and you bury it, or you put it in the crook of a tree, or you put it in a bird's nest or an ant's hill, depending on what your intent is. But the idea is that you should put it somewhere where the person you intend to affect walks past all the time. Law of contagion. So what you've done with this thing slowly seeps out and affects the persons that go past. Now, the other day, I dug a little hole in the garden and whacked it in there, and as you saw, it was just under some old sort of rotted banana bits, which is just fine. Or the other thing is, here's a trick, you could probably leave it somewhere. Just somewhere, not necessarily in a garden. Maybe in a drawer, maybe in a cupboard, maybe even under a bench or something. A couple of bits of sticky tape over there, under your bench. No one's the wiser. There's some real magic, just on the fly. Magic my mom taught me. See you in the field.